All right, looks like we got some breaking news. Progressive candidate, former presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. She is a very spiritual person, an interesting person to say the least. It says Marianne Williamson to make important announcement on March 4th. It appears that she's going to announce a run for president of the United States. This is kind of a big deal, kind of not. I mean, she definitely has no chance to defeat Joe Biden for sure, but that's not going to be the goal here, obviously. The goal here is going to be to pressure Joe Biden to put concessions, to get concessions out of him. She can actually probably make a challenge in like a state like New Hampshire or Iowa, maybe, because those states Biden doesn't perform well in. So, and then those states are going to be pissed because Biden just, just kind of screwed them over and put South Carolina above them, right? Um, so, this year's spiritual author and progressive activist Marianne Williamson said on Saturday that she will make an important announcement on March 4th. Williamson, who previously ran an insurgent presidential campaign in 2020, hinted at a potential challenge to President Biden in Saturday's announcement, noting that she has been exploring the possibility of running for the Democratic nomination in 2024. Quote, as America gears up for the 2024 presidential election, I'm preparing an important announcement on March 4th in Washington, D.C., Williamson said in a press release. I am motivated by a commitment to the tenets of liberty espoused in the Declaration of Independence and the Gettysburg Address, a realization of the Democratic Party shift away from the party of President Franklin Roosevelt, smart, and the economic injustice endured by millions of Americans due to the influence of corporate money on our political system. That's not going to work. She added. So this is actually a really good announcement here. I do wonder who her political strategist is. It's actually pretty smart. It depends on who you're going for, I guess. Like this, I am motivated by a commitment to the tenets of liberty espoused in the Declaration of Independence and the Gettysburg Address. That's not going to appeal to any of you guys. You guys can be like, fuck the Declaration of Independence. Those guys own slaves. Screw them. Hey, I hate them. That's what you're going to think. But it's like the geezers out there and the non, progressive online people are going to like that kind of thing. So, and that's good if you're who you're trying to go for. A realization of Democratic Party shift away from the party of President Franklin Roosevelt. This is smart because a bunch of FDR stuff is super, super popular, right? Amongst old people specifically, and that's where progressives really struggle. That was something that I was really pissed at Bernie for not doing in 2020. He didn't run any TV ads. It was all just like online ads, which is like you're just feeding to the same people you already have. So instead, he should have just, I really think he should have just grabbed the nuts of FDR and just never let go. Just be like, FDR, FDR. Social Security, Biden wanted to cut Social Security nonstop and run TV ads. Because if you're running the ads on YouTube, those geezers who watch TV all day aren't fucking seeing it, dude. His campaign was just, wow. I can't believe he did so well. Like, he still almost won because it was so splintered. But man, like what a terrible campaign he ran. But Bernie's problem was he doesn't have any campaign savvy. He sucks at campaigning, like just trash. He's just like a really real person, and he's just like what he said was just real, and it hit. Like that's what it was. Like that's just him. All the stuff he said, like that's just him. But he has no campaign strategist in him. Like that's just not his thing. Whereas like Obama, Bill Clinton, these kinds of people are like really good campaign strategists. That's kind of that. I think that's really the downfall of Bernie Sanders. It's kind of like a gift and a curse, right? He got to where he was because of his realness, but it also did him in. So this is smart. The economic injustice endured by millions of Americans due to the influence of corporate money on our political system. This is cool in terms of like it's a really good political position, but it's not actually going to appeal to really many people or anybody at all. And I know you guys are going, what? Corporate money is like a huge issue for people. No, actually, no one cares. And so we can just check this Gallup poll here. It's a good example here. It says, what do you think is the most important problem facing the country today? It's a recent trend, January 23, blah, 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 22 of the previous months. You can see always economic problems are the number one, Nummer eins, right? Like that's always the first. So it's economic problems, high cost of living, 40% high cost of living, inflation, 18 economy in general, 13, all of that stuff. That's obviously combined. Federal budget, unemployment, jobs, all one, fuel, oil prices, 5. You can see corporate corruption here is null. It's nil in June 2022. It hit 1 in July 2022. And ever since then, it's been literally 0. So it's like, again, like I know that we get into our bubble here and we just hear the same thing over and over again, but that doesn't mean it's true. So it's not. So this is actually a bad position to run on because it's not actually going to win anybody over. Maybe it will get you brownie points on YouTube, but it's not going to win you over anybody. So the political science of campaigning essentially is the first thing you do is you identify who your constituency is, who are you trying to win the votes of. Then you figure out what issues they care about the most, and then you campaign on those issues. And so it's in political science, it's this thing called it's called staying on message. So you get like 3 issues and you just stay on those 3 issues. Don't talk about anything else, because outside of the 3 most salient issues, salient meaning like popular, you're going to end up not converting anybody. So, for example, like in the previous election, the biggest thing was abortion for Democrats. It was abortion, abortion, abortion. So you talk about that. One of the biggest things for Republicans was crime. Should Democrats counter them? Because a lot of the stuff they say about crime is bullshit. Should the Democrats counter them? No, don't waste your time on crime. Why? You're not going to convince any Republicans to vote for you, and you're just going to temper down Democrats, because no Democrat is motivated to come out and vote on crime. They don't care. They don't care about abortion. So you just leave the crime to them, and just, it's called the resonance theory. At least that's what my professor calls it. It's like the elections are determined not by like convincing the other side. It's about getting people who already support you out to vote. So you just focus on those 3 issues. Stay on message. Stay on message. Don't get off. So don't start talking about crime and all sorts of stuff. No, Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade. And that was the most salient issue. Talk about like the democracy thing, right? Because that was also a big thing. You can see like these are the ones that, people say is like very important. Like corporate corruption just doesn't come anywhere, dude. Like the economy is always going to be number one. But something like abortion, like that was huge in 2022. Huge, huge, huge. So that's just going to be a bad strategy. But in terms of, philosophically speaking, I have a really big disagreement, I think, with a lot of people who are on the progressive side. I think a lot of people genuinely, I don't know if it's out of like virtue or if it's a lot of like, I think there's a lot of good feel that comes from being like this rebel or whatever you feel like you're rebelling against the system. But the problem is like virtue ends up being problematic because it usually doesn't match up with actually like being able to get you the results. So my thing is, I don't want to be an insurgent. I want to take over the party entirely. I don't want to be like a small coalition pushing the Democratic Party. I want to take over the entire Democratic Party. So I want the whole Democratic Party to believe in Medicare for all and ending wars and free college tuition, etc. I don't want to have like a Marianne Williamson doing that kind of thing. Now, with that being said, you still need somebody who's small and able to kind of push back a little bit because you still want that pressure. So I think my personal opinion is, I don't really like Marianne Williamson. That's the thing. She's like this very weird spiritual person that has like this, almost like, I can't even describe her spirituality. It's so like bizarre to me and like not really, I don't even know how to explain it because I don't really understand it, but it's just so weird and bizarre. But she also flaked on Medicare for all and abandoned Bernie and Warren, which is like very bizarre. So she's not really trustworthy either. I don't think she's really ideologically motivated, kind of like Jimmy Dore is. FDR wasn't ideological either, but it's just like, I don't trust her. I can't trust her either. But is she better than Biden? Yeah, obviously. So I'm definitely not going to be like big on Marianne Williamson, but a small challenge that's like very like small marginal, maybe get something will be good, but you can't be big enough to where you piss off the normies. That's the problem. When you piss off the normies, you're hurting your long-term gains. And so as the older people start to, be out of the voting base and younger people start taking over, and keep in mind, I did that video about that study that said that millennials are the first generation not to become more conservative as they age. So millennials are in their 40s. They're the same politically. Because typically when you get older, you get homes, money, you want to keep that stuff. You don't want to pay high taxes. You want to keep your social stuff, blah, blah, blah. Not happening with millennials. So millennials and Gen Z, as they take over, right? As they take over, you're going to see a big change. And so we need to play the long goal. We need to play the long goal. And I know a lot of people say, we don't have time, all this stuff. Yeah, but you can't get much of anything done in the short term. You won't be able to really get anything done in the short run anyways. It's kind of like in economics. You have like the short run aggregate supply curve that's like a regular curve. And then you have the long run aggregate supply curve, which is just a straight line. It's a constant because in the long run, it always adapts to whatever the circumstances are. So I'm not super big on her personally. But at the same time, like a small, tiny challenge that's like really small that doesn't actually do anything, but it's like something is like, that's okay. You just can't, it can't be like viable enough. Like she's not going to do anything, obviously, but it's just so taboo to run against an incumbent president in your party. It's just so taboo, dude. So taboo. This is really like breaking that taboo. So I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. Those are my personal thoughts on this, and I'm really curious to see who is she actually, because we're talking about like the political science behind this. I'm trying to figure out who she actually is trying to appeal to. The first comment here is not going to appeal to progressives, but it's a good thing to appeal to normies though. The second one is going to appeal to, I would say everybody. And then the third one is just going to appeal to like YouTube progressives. That's pretty much it. So I'm curious who she's going for. Is she going for white women? Is she going for black voters? It doesn't seem like that. Old people, young people, who is she going for? So that's going to be really determinant. Who you can appeal to is like super, super big. And a lot of who you appeal to depends upon like your choice of what to run on, right? Because that's what's going to determine it. So yeah, very curious to see this, man. It'll be really very interesting.